really made Venice an empire was the Fourth Crusade, which took place from 1202 to 1204. The Crusades, of course, at least the numbered Crusades, are wars between Christendom, the Catholic Church, against the Muslims, especially trying to get control of the Holy Land. So the Doge, at this point, at the beginning of the 13th century, is Enrico d'Andelello. He was about 95 as this crusade's beginning. So a really old man. He's blind, but he's very wise. That's why the Venetians have made him the Doge, the ruler of Venice. And he was the man who made Venice an empire through the Fourth Crusade. So the Pope declared a crusade to try to recapture Israel from the Muslims. But they need a way to get to the Holy Land. They had marched overland before. That's a long way, difficult journey. They want to just have ships that sail them right to the Holy Land. There's not a lot of countries in Europe that can provide the number of ships they were looking for. So representatives of the Crusaders come to Venice and they sign the largest contract in medieval history. It's going to take all the city's resources for 2 years to take this crusading force on ships, sail them to Israel, keep them supplied for that entire expedition. Now, everyone was told we're going to recapture the Holy Land, but they had a secret plan, and that was to go to Egypt instead, because their goal was to get Israel back, but they said Egypt is the heart of the Muslims' power, so we're going to hit Egypt. But we can't tell everybody that because they want to go to the Holy Land, so that's where we're telling them we're going to go. The crusade gets off to a bad start. They contracted with Venice in this huge contract, which was the price of the annual budget of France. That was how much this cost. Only a third of those 30,000 troops they planned to assemble actually showed up. They have a big problem because they're not going to be able to pay Venice. Venice, as these troops arrive, they put them on a little sandy island out in the lagoon. And as it becomes apparent that they're not going to be able to pay the contract, Venice is in a pretty strong negotiating position because those troops are stuck on the island and they're not coming off until Venice gets this money. But Venice, they've spent all this resources getting all these ships together, so eventually they come to an agreement. The first profits of this crusade are going to go to pay Venice because although this is for religious purposes, the people who show up to actually do the fighting, they do have a religious motivation, but they're also out for money and for glory. But the first money is going to have to go to Venice to pay them back. They're also going to start by attacking Venice's neighbors, because even though some of those are even professing Christians, Venice, they have the power, and so they're the ones who are going to direct where the crusade goes. The Doge himself, this 95-year-old man, he goes on the crusade, takes the sign of the cross, as it was called, and he has successfully arranged for Venice to completely co-opt the crusade for Venice's purposes. The Pope was not happy with this plan because they're going to be attacking Catholics. He threatens to excommunicate them, but the Crusaders don't have any choice. They have to pay Venice. They're stuck. So they go. The Pope excommunicates them. The entire city of Venice is excommunicated, along with all the Crusaders. Again, they keep this a secret from the Crusaders, because a lot of these are people who really respect the Pope, a lot of the common people. So they just don't tell them and go on their way to try to get some money to pay back Venice. So they start by subjugating some neighbors of Venice, getting Venice complete control over the Adriatic, and then a young nobleman comes into camp, and he offers them that if they will help him, he has a right to the throne of the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire. The Byzantine Empire, it's Orthodox Christian, again, not who the Pope wants them to be attacking, but they agree with this promise of riches. So a lot of things happen. This nobleman did not have much. There was another person who was ruling as emperor. He didn't have a lot of influence. They ended up having to capture Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, a couple of times. A bunch of emperors change and go in a year. But in the end, they end up sacking Constantinople, destroying the Byzantine Empire, and changing it into what's called the Latin Empire, which is ruled by people who are under the influence of the Pope and the Catholic Church. Along the way, Venice got a lot of wealth. They were really smart about what they chose as proceeds from the richest city in the world. Constantinople, what we call Istanbul today, was the richest city in the world. And so Venice was the real winner from the Crusade. They also gained a large empire. In addition to their neighbors, they have they get a portion of the Roman Empire that's surviving. They get control of the Dardanelles, Crete, Western Greece, large part of Byzantine territory, and they know what parts to pick because they know the trading market, so they pick the part that are going to give them complete control over the trading. The Doge also gets a title, and that was the Emperor of a quarter of Romania. That means that he controls 3/8 of the Byzantine Empire, and so they put that very specifically in his title, as they're people who are very concerned about numbers, about math, about profit. Some of the things they brought back were the treasures, ancient treasures from Constantinople. So some of these are this statue here. It's called the Column of San Marco. It's a very, very old statue of a lion that's on the top of it there. It was originally constructed by the Greeks in probably the 3rd or 4th century after Christ, repaired and modified many times. The Venetians set it up, and that ends up becoming kind of the symbol of Venice, the Lion of St. Mark. So it's a winged lion holding a Bible. So Venice, when they have an empire, that's their symbol. Many years later, Napoleon is establishing an empire. The Venetian Empire is pretty much dead. Napoleon captures Venice, he takes the lion off of that pillar, and he takes it back to France. So Napoleon, a few years later, he falls, so that lion gets taken from France, put back up on the column. The other column here is the column of San Todadro, St. Theodore killing a dragon. He was a martyr from the 4th century, and he was the original patron saint of Venice before they later switched to St. Mark.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also visit www.discerninghistory.com for more videos and other resources.